The dying German major struggled desperately, and his incredible willpower caught the attention of the king of hell, Satan. The blood surrounding him began to gather, attempting to tempt him into becoming an immortal vampire. However, in the face of the temptation of eternal life, the major scoffed at it. To him, war was the ultimate thrill he had longed for. In 1944, as Germany began to lose the war, the major was given a critical mission, to lead a project to create an invincible vampire army. Although these vampires possessed immense power, they were still unable to turn the tide of the war. Worse still, news of the experiment reached British intelligence, and they quickly identified the location of the laboratory. They sent their strongest weapons, immortal vampires and human reapers, hoping to crush Germany's conspiracy in one decisive blow. The situation on the battlefield rapidly deteriorated, and the major, left with no choice, had to pause the experiment and head to the front lines. But under the ferocious attack of the enemy's two non-human powerhouses, the German army was already on the brink of collapse, and the major was captured by the enemy, suffering several gunshot wounds to vital areas. Lying in the blood-soaked ground, barely clinging to life, the major's determination attracted the attention of Satan, the king of hell. The blood around him tried once again to tempt him to become an immortal vampire. However, even in the face of this temptation, the major remained unmoved. Despite having witnessed the power of the vampire monsters, the major still scoffed. Luckily, the doctor arrived just in time, and the major barely managed to survive. After seeing the true horrors of war, the major became acutely aware of the frailty and suffering of the human body. He decided to undergo a mechanical ascension. With the remnants of his army, he formed the Millennium Force, and they fled to Brazil, where they went into hiding to continue their unfinished research. Under the major's leadership, the Millennium gradually developed into a dark power strong enough to shake the world. The major himself transformed into a demon obsessed with war. In everyday life, he moved with elegance, as though everything was under his control. He spoke politely and with charm, but once the topic of war came up, the demonic nature hidden beneath his human skin would reveal itself without hesitation. As time passed, the doctor's experiments began to show results. Although the quality of the artificial vampires still couldn't match that of the immortal vampires, their numbers had reached 1,000. Seeing that the time was right, the major's madness could no longer be suppressed. He had meticulously planned for half a century, all to plunge the world into eternal war. Through speeches filled with temptation and incitement, he ignited the soldiers' insanity, convincing them to march to the battlefield with a determined willingness to die. In the major's mind, the immortal vampires were his greatest enemies, but they were also the ones he despised the most. He believed that, in their pursuit of power, they had abandoned the fundamental will of humanity, becoming a disgusting existence. To him, there was only one standard to distinguish a human from a non-human: self-will. As long as a person's will still existed, even if only their mind remained their own, they were still human.